The Apple Watch SE 3 really took me by surprise. It's not the flashiest or the most feature-packed smartwatch of Apple's lineup, but it definitely outshines the rest when it comes to value. So let's talk about why. This is All Things Mobile. One of the side effects of getting to test out the latest and greatest is that I know exactly what I'm missing out on when I don't have that latest model of something. And after having just reviewed the Series 11 and the Ultra 3, I was genuinely concerned that my fear of missing out, or my FOMO, would completely take over. Oh, is that the cheaper Apple Watch? How's that going? But with this watch, FOMO is not a problem because you're getting a lot of the same features, including the same processor as the other two watches. Anytime I'd start to miss that larger screen or longer battery life, I'd remember that the SE3 is $250, and that's almost half the price of even the cheapest Series 11. So if you're buying an Apple Watch for the very first time, or you're buying it for a child, or even if you're upgrading from something like a Series 4 or 5, this watch will do everything you want it to, and more. One of the biggest upgrades that is actually powered by that S10 chip or that better processor is the fact that it can now handle an always-on display. So if you remember, the previous SE lines were defined by that raise-to-wake functionality, which meant you had to do this anytime you wanted to see notifications or the time. Now it always stays on like the higher-end model, so I can quickly glance at the time or notifications without anybody noticing that I'm doing that. It's a small thing, but it's actually a big perk when it comes to day-to-day. What's even more impressive is that Apple still promises the same 18-hour battery life on this watch as it did in the previous generation, but this one has the screen always on. That means that in theory, if you were to turn off the always on display and keep it like the older generation, it would almost double in terms of battery life. In my own testing, the Apple Watch SE 3 actually outperformed Apple's claim by at least 4 hours. I got anywhere between 22 and 25 hours, including a full night of sleep tracking, at least a 40-minute outdoor run, and your average notifications from Slack and text messages. Charging is also faster now. If you don't make it to the end of the day, you can get enough juice for at least 8 hours of sleep tracking with just 8 minutes on the charger. Apple says a full charge takes about 75 minutes, but I hit 99% in just an hour. On the health front, you're getting new tools like Sleep Score, which grades your rest, plus sleep apnea notifications that can alert you to potential breathing issues overnight. There's also a temperature sensor that helps detect early signs of illness in the Vitals app and provides retrospective ovulation tracking. The only health features you're not going to get on this watch are the blood oxygen tracking, the ECG or electrocardiogram app, and the hypertension notifications that Apple just announced. Now, this is not going to affect your day-to-day, so you won't really miss it, but if for some reason you do have high risk factors for any of these, including genetics or age, then it might be worth it to pay that extra money and get the Series 11. Fitness-wise, the SE3 has you covered because it has every workout imaginable that's on all the other watches, and this includes Apple's new Workout Buddy. Now, Workout Buddy does need an Apple Intelligence-powered phone to use, but otherwise, it's basically a voice in your ear giving you real-time motivation as you go. It's not a full-blown coach yet, but it is helpful for things like pace alerts. And this watch is also swim-proof. Design-wise, as you can see, not much has changed. I'm wearing the 40mm Starlight aluminum version, but there's also a 40mm model that also comes in midnight. The bezels are thicker on the Series 11, so the screen feels a little bit smaller on this one and not quite as bright, although I only really noticed it in direct sunlight. What I also noticed while filming this video is that this watch is already scratched. You can take a look at the screen right here. And it's not something that I noticed before, but with all these lights and the screen off, it's very noticeable. That's because the SE3 did not get the more scratch-resistant glass that the aluminum version of the Series 11 got. And you might not even have to touch the screen of this watch because it now has gesture control, which includes that pinch motion for navigation or that wrist flick to silence alarms and notifications. It ships with WatchOS 26, which brings the new liquid glass UI that has fun animations and that glass-like transparency. And it also makes better use of the screen space, which helps offset the smaller display. You're getting the Notes app on the watch now and new music streaming options, including the ability to autoplay when you start a workout. And you can even play that music directly on the watch's speaker. 5G connectivity is another big feature coming to the Apple Watch SE 3. Now, a lot of you aren't going to need it, but if you are planning to use the Apple Watch without the phone, this is going to be key because it's going to give you a more reliable connection and it's going to be more power efficient. Now, if you are a parent considering this watch for a kid, you really don't have another option, and that 5G connectivity is going to come in handy because you aren't going to have a phone to pair it with. Now, Apple says that this is going to impact battery life because you're using it as your primary device, so you can expect about 2 hours less if you are using it in kids mode. All this to say, this is probably going to be the best Apple Watch for most people. It gives you access to all of Apple's ecosystem when it comes to health and fitness for a lot less, and now you know that it's running the same processor as the higher end models. Now, if you do want that bigger screen, that more rugged look, or the longer battery life, you can always check out my reviews of the Series 11 or the Ultra 3. But in the meantime, let me know what you think of the SE3 in the comment section below, and thanks for watching.